Hi, this is Kevin from Hideaway Homestead. We're glad you're joining us again. We're going to do a follow-up on these raised beds that we did a couple of weeks ago, or actually it's been a couple months ago now since we put these in. This bed here and the one behind me, we built these back in December and put these in. And then we planted these. And we just wanted to show some of the progress that we've got going on here. These are sugar peas that we've got, and they're climbing up this fence, and as you can see, they're almost to the very top. It's just unbelievable how they've done. We've got onions down in here that are doing quite well. There's one of the long ones. This area right here is lettuce that we have. We've got on the other side some other stuff going over there. And then back here on this side, this is the first bed that we built in the last video that we did out here. This is the one we were building in that video, and as you can see, we planted stuff in here. These are the collards in the middle, and you can see how big the collards have gotten. These are turnips over here on this side right here. And then this is amaranth over here, and it's sort of scattered on this side over here. But they're doing quite well, as you can see. It's just growing so good. So we're very pleased with the progress that we've gotten from this stuff growing. Okay, we just wanted to show you kind of how big these things are compared to these leaves. If I put my hand in here and touch the ground, you can see these leaves come almost to my shoulder. And they're not only tall, but they're big and wide also. And here's one right here that's pretty wide. You can see that thing is that wide. So yeah, they've done quite well out here. One of the other things we wanted to show you and talk about also is on these turnips right here. You can see, if you look closely, you can see how the leaves are starting to look like they're wilted. They're drooping down, and that's just because of the heat. Because it's so hot here, they start to sort of curl up. They're not dying or anything, it's just that they're so hot. We just watered these, and that's the reason they look wet. They looked worse than this when we first came out here and looked at them. But they're starting to perk back up a little bit. So that's one of the things that we have to keep in mind here when we plant gardens at this time of year, is to keep them watered a whole lot, and that seems to help them out a lot. The other thing that we wanted to point out also is that this is the middle of February here in Florida. It's in the mid to upper 80s now, and so this stuff is really taking off. So I know a lot of the other parts of the country, they're not really into the planting stuff yet because they're still cold and having snow and that sort of thing. But here in Florida, we get to plant a lot sooner than most other places, and that's just a blessing for us, is to be able to plant stuff this early and have this kind of a harvest early in the season. So that's a good thing. We like that. Okay, one of the other things that we have in the raised bed is this Swiss chard right here. They're growing quite well also, and as you can see, I can put my hand down in here and touch the dirt where they're growing, and they're up to my elbow. And they're so thick that we've just never had them grow this well before, and so that's the reason there's so many of them, is once we planted them sort of as an experiment, they just took off, and we had no idea they were going to do that well. Over here we've got the Ethiopian Kale. We planted this in here. This is the first time we've ever planted it, but we planted this mainly because it's supposed to grow real well here in Florida in the heat. And as you can see from these, they do. These are up to almost my chest height and still growing. They're real tall, and so they have done very well in this raised bed. So we're pleased with that also. This bed over here, this is beets that we've got planted in this side right here. And then we also have some more of the sugar peas right here. These were planted a little later than the first ones we were just looking at, so they're not quite as tall, so they've got a ways to go. But they are starting to put peas on. And also in this end over here, we've got onions planted in this section. And then we also have beets on the other side. Get over here. This whole section right here, this whole side is beets also. And we've never had beets to do this well. We've planted them before in the past, and they never really got much bigger than a couple inches, and then because of the heat, they would just dry up and die. So with us putting in these raised beds, this seems to have been a good answer for us for the heat here in Florida. So we're very pleased with what we've got going on so far. So it's looking good. One of the things that we've started doing out here recently is to reuse. We try to repurpose a lot of things that we have here on the farm. We reuse the bags that the feed for the chickens and the rabbits comes in. That's what these are. So what we do is we roll the sides down, put dirt in here, and then we planted potatoes in here. That's what these are, and these here, these are all potatoes. So what happens is when they get bigger like this, as they grow, we put more dirt in here, and then all you have to do is roll the sides up and keep rolling it up until the bag is pretty tall, and you should have potatoes down inside that bag. We saw that idea at Hart Village and learned about that, and we've implemented that, and it seems to be working out quite well for us. These pots over here, we're doing a follow-up on these potatoes that we planted in these bags. These potatoes have only been in these bags for probably about 3 or 4 weeks, we think, at the most. And as you can see, they have really taken off. Okay, one of the things that we do also is we've planted onions and garlic in these pots right here, as well as the potatoes. Another thing we've done is we've put onions inside these bags, just like we did with the potatoes over here. We can't necessarily roll the sides up on these like we did with the potatoes, and we put them in these just to save us from having to put them in pots and pulling them out and trying to plant them and all that sort of stuff. So this seems to be working out well, to have these onions planted in these bags, and then when they're ready to harvest, we can just pull them out of the bags and we're done. So that works out quite well. So we're pleased with that also. One of the things that we did in the first video about building the raised beds, we made a little bit of a change. When we cut the ends of the beds, instead of just having this go straight across, we actually bent the ends of it in around the corners, and that helps keep the dirt in, because we noticed some of the dirt was washing through the edge of where we put the other one together, and so we bent these, and now it seems to be a lot tighter, and it also keeps the weeds and stuff that are outside from growing in between there and coming up into the raised bed. So this is just a slight change that we've made since the first video that we made on building these raised beds. We're pleased with it. We like it. It's done real well for us, and so we like the way this is turning out. Okay, what we did in this bed here, this is the last one we actually put in, the next to the last, I guess it is. These are Roma bush beans that we've got planted in here. These have only been in here for about 2 weeks, we think, and they are doing quite well also. So we're happy with these. Again, we usually plant these in beds and directly in the ground, and so we, as an experiment, decided to try them out in here and see how they would do, and they're doing well. So, if you liked our video, if you haven't subscribed to our channel already, we invite you to go ahead and hit the subscribe button in the lower right hand corner and leave us some comments. We like to have comments, and if you have questions or if you have ideas about things that you've tried that worked for you pertaining to this sort of thing, you can leave those as well. So until next time, thanks for joining us.